Hello everybody, it's your boy N here. I'm coming at you guys with another YouTube video. So I'm gonna go over every single Enzo build, how to play him, and honestly, I need to talk about Enzo because what they've done to him is incredibly strange, and it makes me think that the developers kind of had no idea what they are doing with Enzo in the first place. So let's have a look at it. Starting off for the build number 1 is going to be the Supply Firearm Enhancer build. This build is primarily to buff Glare or buff Serena, ideally Glare inside of a Warcrasher, for example, but if you used this build before, you'll know what it's about. The main thing on this build is cooldown being low, duration being high. You can see with specific rounds, you get specific buffs. For Enzo to use this as a solo DPS, he doesn't get a crit rate buff, but only a crit damage buff. For other Descendants, this will work out fine, for Serena or for Glare or whatever, so this doesn't work out too badly. With the 4th ability, again, you can see my cooldown is 29 seconds and the duration is 31. However, we do have the infinite loop, and you can replace the ancestor mod for multi-talented, and that will basically allow you to get away with looping everything, or you could just use another focus on module, which would allow you to go through and still have the correct loop as well. Just you're gonna have to keep an eye on it, because you can see here 22 seconds to 31, and you know, so on and so forth. So even using it like this without an ancestor is completely good. The main way you'd use this is putting your first ability down, and then using your 4th ability, giving your teammates some buffs, so on and so forth, and that's pretty much it. Now, Enzo, his passive has changed. So, his passive across every single build is shoot X amount of bullets with X amount of weapons, or with X amount of rounds, and then you can get Firing Specialist, which is a giga buff for your explosive, right? This is cool, but also incredibly fucking stupid, because primarily, you have to carry 3 weapons. With Enzo, at least in this setup, I would personally not use anything more than a Peacemaker to literally just max out my movement so that I can keep up with Serena and her flying around. So for me personally, I think the fact that if you want to do any proper official or proper kicking DPS with Enzo, the fact that I have to basically do all of this is kind of silly. Let me quickly show you. So if I want to do DPS with Enzo, what I would need to do is put my 1 down, put my 4 on. I would have to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then with that, you can see the little radar on the ADS. You can see the little number. Sorry, I'll look down so you can see it a little bit easier with the Thunder Cage. And that will let you know once your passive is fully charged up. Same with the Relic. Okay, now they're all fully charged. Now the passive is active. So again, I would activate the 4th ability. I'd activate the 1. I'd activate the 3 for survivability, and now I just shoot, and this is how I get damage. With Enzo, the Relic is not even meant to be built into crit, so again, multi-hit is obviously going to be superior. But this is what I need to do if I want to do proper damage with Enzo, which is kind of stupid. This also works as /scales off your max shield, so that means every build with Enzo is going to be a shield build. Yo, Drika Play, thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that so much. Ryoko Kitsune, thank you for the follow as well. I appreciate that a lot, thank you. Biavis, thank you. You caught me in the middle of recording a video, but thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, back to what I was saying. So for this Supply Firearm Enhancer build, it does feel very redundant in the fact that you just don't want to bother with DPS. This is a support build. Ramming DPS down everyone's throat through a stupid passive doesn't even work out. And I'll talk about the focus fire setup a little bit later. For the arcade tree for this one, again, this is what I've gone with, a bit of gunning and some duration, so that works out nicely. 2 pieces of Firebrand for range and for duration, and 2 pieces of Annihilation, again for duration, cooldown, duration upon the reactor. So that is Supply Firearm Enhancer Enzo pretty much sorted. So let's have a quick look at the other Enzo setups as well. With Gunzo, or the compressed bullet Enzo, this is where I think I have my first round of beef, especially with Enzo. Holy, they put the most crazy damage shield multiplier behind it. And let me show you as well how high this goes. With this build specifically, and with the other build as well, the Supply Firearm Enhancer, to reach Enzo's max damage cap, it's 24,782 shield. Basically, we'll just round it up to 25,000 for shield on basically all of Enzo's builds, because that's just an easier way to remember it. So 25k to reach his shield cap for his DPS across all builds, right? So with this, the trade-off being is your ammo gets doubled. You do twice as many bullets, or 2 to 3 times. Again, trying to compensate for this passive, again, whilst doing DPS with this, because the way you'd use this build is the same. Activate your 4th ability to get your ammo regeneration in, and you get more multi-hit increase or damage increase, which is great for the relic. Then for your 1, you get fire rate, and you get more fire rate and recoil decrease, which is good for the relic. You can use the tree with the fire rate mutant cell, and use this build specifically to remove 1 fire rate core from the relic, but I wouldn't really recommend it because it's just impractical as hell. His second ability is instant reload like Serena, and the third ability is just health and shield recovery. So when you use this build in practicality, what you're slapped with is the same thing. You want your damage, you've got to use the Thunder Cage first. You've got to get your DPS in with the Thunder Cage, get that up to 100%, get your Malevolent up to 100%, and then you start shooting with your relic. And if you look at my ammo economy, even in lab, this is so unsustainable, it's funny. Even the cooldown can't keep up with this, which is the truly magnificent part. And then if you activate tactical acceleration, say goodbye to everyone who you know and love, because your ammo economy is not keeping up. Even Enzo is not regenerating fast enough for this. And for those who say, change your relic, my friend, my relic has double ammo mods to get as much ammo regeneration at once. It's just not viable. This build was a true slap in the face to people who thought this was going to be great, including myself. And same thing, the components on here are duration, range, and 2 pieces of shell crusher. You can slow the fire rate down, but why would you do that? Like, less fire rate is less DPS over a longer period of time in this specific instance. If you were to take the fire rate off your components, it still wouldn't really do very much. This build does rely on the multi-talented loop with the way I have built it. You could, again, just take this off and slap a second focus on module. Forgive me. You can slap a second focus on module, and again, your loop is going to be fine. But yeah, I was just going back and forth and testing all possibilities. For the Ancestor mod on this one, I've gone with shield to scale my shield all the way up to the cap. And I've just about missed the cap as well, so you do need to pay attention to your shield. I've just about gotten over the cap because of this Ancestor mod, thanks to the shield. Again, the tree and everything else is still the exact same, and the comps are still the same. The weapon rotation is basically the same thing. You get shoved into using this passive that you probably don't even care about half the time. So, W's for Enzo, I guess. I don't know. It's a very, very strange setup. Compressed bullet does definitely lack, and it's one of them things that I think is kind of cooked. Anyways, on to the next setup for Enzo again. Now, this is going to be the Focus Fire Enzo. So I'm going to show you my great and grave problem with this one. With this one, you would essentially use his 4th ability, and if you look at it, you'll see that you get a duration increase on a crit, a 2-second for every hit. So this is great, right? This will still work, and ideally we want to get crits off the drone. So how are we going to do that? With this build, you basically change your fire rate increase buffs to crit increase buffs. So again, they're ramming this loop down with the passive down your throat, and you need to pay attention to the general round, special round, impact, high power round loop. So to get that, you're going to get a 30% increase. The nice thing about this is you don't need any rate mods. You can literally just run a build literally that looks exactly like this, with duration up on the Ancestor to make it more worth your time, and it will practically work. So even if we were to use this as a quick example, again, let's just slap the Thunder Cage in. Slap Thunder Cage in, get that in, use the second ability to reload. That's at 100%, Malevolent. same thing at 100%. And now I activate the fourth ability. I use the relic, and I have the first and third buff. Shoot the relic, and now I have the buff. With this, with my actual ability on my first ability, we are at 100% crit rate. Oh my, okay, bro. It's active. I know it's active. I can see the buff. The buff is active, but you can see here, I'm not actually getting the 100%. This is weird. Probably a lab malfunction, but this does give you 100%, and I've seen it before. But you do get the high crit off here anyways. And with this, you'll see that, well, you can just see the DPS. If the duration extends off a crit for every 2 seconds, with how fast this turret shoots, you're not really going to have any problems. So, with this, again, you're kind of balling. With this, I've put duration on this setup, but honestly, you can flip the script on this build, and you can kind of 180 it, and it still works. You can make the build with duration and with crit, relying on this passive, which is an annoying passive, and the arcade tuning will look something like this, because you want to do DPS with your weapons as well. 2 pieces of ascending for cost, and 2 pieces of fire rate for shell crusher. This time it actually matters, so non-attribute singular with cooldown crit damage instead of cooldown duration up. And with that, you're presented with this, a build where you basically just use the passives on all of the abilities, or you build the passive up through the guns. Once it's built, there you go. Again, 1, 2, 3 it. And then using the relic and stuff as well, you get all of your DPS and everything out of there. So there you go, passives kicked in again. This is, for some reason it's showing 51% in the lab, but the passive is a bit back and forth right now. The passive is technically bugged or something, I don't know, but in actual gameplay it was giving me 100% rate, so don't worry about that. Other than that, oh, ancestor mod? Alright, no, with this time you don't need an ancestor mod. Oh wait, sorry, because I'm not running any rate at all yet. Ancestor, yeah, you're right, my bad. So with this, again, even with a 51% rate, this still is completely viable. With this, you can see even the 30% base crit rate off here, it's still enough to completely maintain it. You don't need to go down the whole route of relying on this stupid passive. So if I flip the switch, or flip the script, sorry, and change the build, so instead we have less duration but all 4 crit mods, what happens there? And let's put crit on the ancestor too. If we do it now, we don't even need to rely on the ancestor. Oh wait, now we're at the 100% because of the buff. Yeah, okay, we're cooked. That's actually so cooked. Right, once this buff expires in about a few seconds, you'll see that even despite no passive at all, we're still at a 51 base crit rate. So even if we just slap this on its own, we don't need to accommodate for this passive, because an ancestor mod can cover it. And realistically, with the relic, you just want to do relic and Enzo gameplay, because that is the fastest thing. Whenever I've been switching off the relic in higher tier content, like breach tracking and stuff like that, not using the relic had a higher chance of getting me killed. So you can technically do this and you'd get away with it. You can remove immensity measures and insight on the crit build, and it should be at 100%. Noted. Yeah, just because the ancestor. Got you. Yeah, so even with that, just in general, you can even make this build completely without compensating for the passive and just stay using the relic, which is significantly more worthwhile. The crit on here is whatever, and I personally would just rather prefer jumping around with the relic, because that's what Enzo used to do and still does. Still uses first and third ability for DPS increase, but the relic is basically all you'd need with Enzo anyways. And you can see even with this, the ammo economy does get sustained when you are using his fourth ability, which is something I'm not doing. But the ammo economy does get sustained over here. Even if I am trying to go in with shooting and stuff like that, you always end up gaining more ammo than you lose. And then even with the setup and everything else, you will basically end up in a you'd end up in a positive for ammo. So the focus fire build, if you want to get an ancestor mod for crit rate and build it for crit, you don't need to compensate for this stupid passive, which is the only reason I think I would like the focus build the most out of all of his builds. If you don't have a passive with crit rate though, then again go back to the I'm gonna get rid of these stupid mobs. Go back to the setup where you kind of have to rely on the passive. I don't like relying on the passive because it's kind of cooked, but yeah. With the crit ancestor mod, you can take emergency measures off and slap a duration mod in, and then your duration would go up. But again, even when I was testing, having this on with only 50% was more consistent than having to refresh and risk my life every time I wanted the passive back once a minute. So yeah, that's kind of the focus fire build sorted. So that was a pretty nice complaint about this, because, you know, we love the focus fire setup. As for the next and final setup, we have the frontline setup. Now, the frontline setup with Enzo is even more useful than the compressed bullet, which is kind of cooked. Yeah, so with this, you'd use your ability 1 for fire rate, recoil reduction, and then you'd use your third ability to buff teammates with health and shield. Again, fourth ability for ammo regen, and because we want to ram that passive so far up your ass, you start seeing stars. We've got the passive again. So we're back to the same boring Enzo loop. With this again, I'm at 12k shield, so you know, overwhelming is required. And for the ancestor, instead of duration up, if you've got a max shield ancestor with this setup, it would work out being a little bit better. I do personally prefer the duration because you do want to compensate and slap health mods on and stuff like that. If you want to do that, you're gonna have to go down the route of dropping a little bit of range on Enzo. With this, his max expandable range is 250%, so it is worth actually using the range, because for a squad or in Wall Crasher, it is going to be worthwhile. An Ancestor mod with shield would pull me up to about 15k. Again, not even close to the 25k that we need to be with this setup, but you kind of would have to make the choice between dropping a little bit of range and dropping some other stuff as well. Even slapping a focus on module would be a step in the right direction. If not, then you can see the loop here is going to be slightly cooked. You've got enough cooldown to actually be in a perfect loop over here, so that is fine. But if you're not happy with it, multi-talented and basically same thing. For the weapons, Thunder Cage, again, exact same thing. Malevolent, exact same thing, and Relic as the exact same thing. And then inversions have been the same throughout. Cooldown duration up, 2 pieces of range and duration with Firebrand, 2 pieces of Shell Crusher, and the Arcade Tree again stays the same. And yeah, with this setup again, for mobbing, this is still more practical than Compressed Bullet, because you just use your 1, you'd use your 3 and your 4, and then you'd build the passive up so we can ram it up someone's ass. And then you'd go in with the rest of everything else. And even for DPS, the fire rate increase and everything else on this one is still practical. Ammo sustainability is good as well on this build, so you still end up in a positive. And the range on this is kind of nice because of the increase from the weapon. So this build again is kind of nice. The only thing that's kind of cooked is the cooldown on the 2. But again, I think multi-talented is just kind of recommended for this, so that you can have a proper cooldown on that. So yeah, this is the reinforced frontline setup, and it's a setup for buffing teammates, and that's why we are focusing on the double range. So with Enzo, again, with this, you'd want to rely on the passive for DPS. Would I bother with this build? No. Which builds would I say is actually worth taking advantage of the passive? Maybe Focus Fire, definitely not. Compressed Bullet, fuck no. Supply Firearm Enhancer, fuck no. And Frontlines, fuck no. Basically with Enzo, they've reworked him into being a I'm going to ram my passive so far up your ass if you ever want a decent amount of damage. And if you want a decent amount of damage, screw your cooldown and support setup, because you need to build for shield for yourself now, which was never really a thing in the past. You can absolutely ignore the passive, but when they put such an emphasis of making the scaling genuinely worth it, like I said, a 171 damage multiplier cap does make a difference, but I don't know whether I would recommend for people to even bother with it. I think I've shown my setup or the way I've understood / interpreted everything. So that's kind of where we are at with Enzo. Would I say this has been an L or a W for Enzo though? I would say this is kind of a very strange thing. I would definitely not call it a W. I would call it more so of an L versus what Enzo used to be. He was already an essential tin can for buffing, and well, he's still an essential, but making him have a lot of DPS but locking it behind a passive, especially a passive that is unpractical as shit, full well knowing that players in this game just rely on the relic for everything, it is kind of cooked. At least that's my opinion. So thank you guys. That's pretty much this video with every Enzo build and kind of what I would make of it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do smash that like button. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. Let me know what you think about Enzo, because I don't know if I'm a fan still. I guess it's something only time can make a difference on. So yeah, smash that like button and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.